the closer you are to your soul's life call, to your soul's life purpose, the more resistance you'll feel around the thing. I really look at fear as it's like the X that marks the spot. I can't imagine if I missed out on all the magic that was in that spot because I was afraid.
Welcome back, my billion-dollar baby, to today's episode. I'm your host, Tara Electra, and on this podcast, we break down the billion-dollar ideas from today's cultural leaders who push past the traditional route to create their very own pathway to success. I'm so excited to have today's guest on. She's a serial entrepreneur, #1 best-selling author. She's 11 times cover model, as well as has a huge podcast with over 65 million downloads. Lori Harder is no stranger for kicking closed doors down, and on her journey, she dedicates herself to being unapologetically her, while doing what she's meant to do, as well as inspiring millions of people across the world to do exactly what they want to do to live their dreams also. So welcome to my podcast today. I'm so excited to have you.
I'm so excited to be in bed with you.
I know. Welcome to my bed.
I'm like, this is going to be the most comfortable podcast ever. Like, has anyone gotten under the covers yet?
I know. I thought about that one day. I was like, I should ask people every time they come on, like, do you want to get under the covers or do you like to be over the covers? No, I was saying to you, and I couldn't help but tell you the moment I saw you, that you're the first podcast I ever listened to. So I was an active listener.
And I actually can't believe it. It's like one of those moments where you're like, you're not. You did it. You have it. That's so crazy.
I know, it's wild. So you inspired me and my sister so much through, I just remember back in the day before I had my own business and wasn't happy with what I was doing, I'd listen to your podcast all the time. So it's just so cool. You're an OG.
I said something right.
Yeah. And I was telling you too, like, you're so good at just being like so authentically yourself and like showing your pains and struggles and then showing how you overcome them on your podcast, which is so cool.
I only figured that out because if I did not do it, like nothing came out. Mm-hmm. Nothing. Or it was just like, I didn't even like what was coming out. I was like, oh, I wouldn't like this person. Why would anybody else like them? So it was just through so much trial and error of I can't even show up if I don't show up myself.
Yeah. Wow. So what helped you be more like get into the flow state of being authentic and knowing like what you're saying actually is going to help people? Because I think a lot of people get in their heads.
Because for so many years, I tried to be someone else. For so many years. I was telling you before we started rolling that I had an event about 9 years ago and it had like 500 women from all over the world. It was 3 days long. And I remember the first one that I did. Okay, like you don't know if anyone's going to show up. All of a sudden you have the realization that you put a ton of money down on an event and you have an event and people are coming. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh my God, now I'm freaking out. And it's like 2 weeks away. I don't really have all my content yet. And I think that I'm comparing myself to all these people I used to listen to, like a Gabby Bernstein, a Joe Dispenza. I'm like, I have to be like them. Like people are going to come and expect that. Mm-hmm. Don't ask me why I thought that. I just thought that I needed to be like that and show up in that way. And I remember I was like trying to learn how to teach quantum physics. Okay, I did not graduate high school. And I'm like, do I need to teach quantum physics? And I hire this woman who is this amazing coach, and she's like so good with her words, and she's a world-renowned speaker. And I hire her to help me make all this content for the event. Mm-hmm. So we spend a week, and I spend so much money on this, like writing out these PowerPoints that I can follow. It doesn't feel authentic at all, but it sounds very smart. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to follow this. I think it was 3 days before the event, and it was on my assistant's computer. Her computer crashes.
Wow.
And everything disappears. And I'm like, oh my God, I was freaking out. But like an hour after, I was like, this is for me. I was about to go up there and pretend to be someone else and regurgitate all of this info that wasn't mine and it wasn't my life experience and it wouldn't help anyone because I realized that I was teaching instead of storytelling and bringing them with me. Mm-hmm. And so it's all about how do you share your particular story and your particular journey and what did you learn? And that's the only way you're ever, in my personal opinion, truly going to impact people and connect with them long term. I think there's a lot of stuff that you can do short term that can attract a lot of people, but I think long term, you energetically can't generate all of that fake energy because it's not really you. It's like outside of you. So how did I learn how to do it? That was a long way to tell you that I think you're going to have moments in your life where you're forced into it and you can either resist it or you can surrender to it and realize that it's your superpower of just sharing your story.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so impactful. I've seen you on your podcast face a lot of fears, and you've done so many amazing things in your career. So what advice do you have to someone that has fear blocking them from like going after their dreams?
Well, I think the first thing is to realize, this is so funny. I like just had a soul journey on the way up here because it's 2 hours,
No
from the
way.
OC. So,
Oh, wow.
but it's so good. I was listening to Gabby Bernstein lecture. I was like, okay, I'm just going to take this time to listen to this. So I'm speaking on Friday at a really big event.
Wow.
This Friday, and I speak all the time, except I am always scared and I'm super over it. Like I'm actually really sick and tired of getting anxiety, like, because I noticed I woke up with it today and I was like, I have a lot of other things that I would like to be giving my attention to. But because that fear is there about Friday speaking in front of these people, because I want to make, the person who's running the event happy. I want to make sure everybody feels a certain way. I want to be a good speaker. And I'm just observing that I'm more focused on that. And this fear was overwhelming me this morning. And I was on the drive up and I was like, God, I don't want to feel this way anymore. Like, I'm so over it. In fact, I was like, I'm so fucking over this, God. Could you please take this from me? And I just had this moment of like, oh, it's actually serving me, but I don't have to focus on it. And you can still show up with it. And it's what connects me to the people in those seats.
Whoa.
Like my fear is what connects me to my audience. That's how I stay fully like in their shoes and understanding them. And it was this moment of, this is such a gift for you. Stop looking at it like a curse.
That is the coolest thing I've ever heard.
So thank you for this transformative drive to come up to LA
Wow.
to your podcast.
That's so true because wow. I never looked at it that way because I do have a lot of fear about like chasing my own dreams or even doing this podcast. But then the thing that pushed me, I was like, if I don't do it anyways, then how can I actually help anyone? But you're right, because if you're not feeling it, you're so disconnected from what most people are feeling.
Totally.
And then people can't really relate with you.
There's this Stephen Pressfield quote, I'm probably going to mess it up, but it talks about how the closer you are to the thing that you should be doing, the more fear you're going to be feeling. So the closer you are to your soul's life call, to your soul's life purpose, the more resistance you'll feel around the thing. So I really look at fear as it's like the X that marks the spot. So whenever you feel a lot of fear around something, around a hard conversation, around something that you really want to do, around you starting the podcast, you said it took you like 2 years. This might be that thing that just opens every single door for you. And, looking back, the things that have scared me the most have been the things that have just opened portals for me that I'm like, I can't imagine if I missed out on all the magic that was in that spot because I was afraid.
Yeah.
And, before I started public speaking, I had a lot of fear around public speaking, like panic attacks. I homeschooled through high school and never finished high school. And the reason I did that was because, number one, I was raised in a more restrictive religion. But number two, I started getting panic attacks at the age of like 14. And it was whenever, I'm not sure why it started, but I think it was because I would always get made fun of like when there was attention on me. So I just started to try to like never get attention and blend in. And I think that has stayed with me. So whenever eyes are on me or attention's on me, like I can feel very panicky. And so around the public speaking, I just was like, oh my God, this is my worst fear. I'm never going to be able to do it. I'm never going to be able to get on a stage ever. But I knew I wanted to be a speaker. And I knew I wanted to, like when I would go see Tony Robbins or Gabby Bernstein, I was like, that's what I want to do. Except I'm sitting here like I couldn't even, if she handed me the microphone, I wouldn't even be able to say anything. Like I'd go full sweat mode, crying. Like that's what would happen. And so I remember I was at a Tony Robbins event and he asked the question, what's the story that you're telling yourself around the fear of why you can't? And it was, I can't be a speaker because I get panic attacks and I'm dumb. I didn't graduate. I'm too dumb, like I'm too stupid and everyone will find out that I'm a fraud. And then he has you write, who would you be without that fear? Like, who would you actually really be if it was just the fear they could take away, not change anything else about you, just take away the fear. And I just wrote a page on, I would be helping people with this, I'd be speaking on this, I would write this book, I'd be a podcaster, I just flooded the page with what I would want to do.
Wow.
And had the realization that the only thing that was stopping me was this massive fear. And so it's more about how can you support that fear? It's never going to go away. I think a lot of our resistance comes around going, I think I'm like, what's wrong with me? This fear is not gone. Like maybe you still get nervous on this podcast because you just started it. Who knows? It's like that fear most likely may never go away for some people. And for me, it has not yet, but I've learned how to support it. Like I understand to start small. I didn't go to a stage of 500 people first. I gathered a group of like 4 friends and I said, hey, this is really weird. You're going to think I'm a weirdo, but I am so freaked out by speaking in front of people. Can I just like read this in front of you? Or can we do this thing where I'm going to just like announce some things in front of you? It's going to be really weird, but I need to get over my fear. And they're like, yeah, let's do whatever you need to do. So I started with friends and then I started in really small groups. And that's the only way to start getting over fears is to go really small at first.
That's so cool. And honestly, I didn't know all that stuff about you. Like I dropped out of high school and I went to be homeschooled too.
Look at us promoting dropping out.
Yeah, literally. And I got held back in 2nd grade, so I didn't think I was smart too.
Oh my
gosh. So
gosh.
I had that whole thing.
Do you still get that ever?
Yeah,
Okay.
sometimes. And I definitely broke through it to start my business
Totally.
finally. But it really was around me for a long time. I couldn't get that off of me. So that was hard. And then that hurts your self-confidence and feeling like you compare yourself to others and feel like you need to fit in other people's boxes of what it looks like to be successful or professional. And that's why I relate to you, like writing the things out of how it should be, because you think you need to fit in other people's worlds. And so it's funny because my company's called Unruly, and the whole like message behind it is breaking the normal and going against traditional routes to success. Because it's now I've been like so empowered by like, I dropped out of high school. I didn't go to college and do the way that you think you would get to success. Like I did everything my own way.
Totally.
And now I still got here. And so that was so cool for me to see, is like everyone's ways is different. And like you could still get there based off you just following your true self. So that was so cool to hear that about you. I wanted to ask you too, tell us about like how you were raised. I know you talk about this on your podcast, but like how were you raised? What was your money mindset towards being successful and things like that?
I'm just laughing because I'm like, wow, to think about. It's so fun to think about how far we've come, right?
Yes.
Wow, how did that even happen? I am from a really small town in Upper Michigan. Most people are like, oh, Detroit? No, different, like almost a different state, like actually above by Canada. And it really is more of an isolated area. So like 3 hours to pretty much any other thing that resembles a city, and really small town. Like I said, homeschooled through high school. I was raised in a more restrictive religion. So take a small town and then say that you're not allowed to hang out with anyone outside of that religion. So my congregation was 114 people, and they were the only people I was allowed to associate with. And in the religion, it was really believed to put all of your treasures in heaven, in God, all of the things, and that you really worked just to get by because this world was not going to last. So I really didn't even know if I would see. I was told like, oh, the end of this world is going to be by the time you're 20. So I lived that way. I was like, oh, everything here is not even going to exist. So I'm only going to... live for.
Did you have fear around that, or did you kind of release it? Oh, okay.
No,
I was gonna say.
a lot of just trauma work and therapy stuff in my 20s because I was just always so fearful that everything was going to end, which, that's just how I was raised. But the money mindset thing, it was already a really small town, and money was, growing up, my parents went bankrupt as well. So money was hard to come by. Rich people were jerks. Money wasn't for people like us. we weren't like, I wasn't educated. That's a very 80s, 90s, like it was all about education. And then right when I turned 18, I moved to Madison, which is really, they're really into academics there. It's a big college town. They're super proud of like their school and everything that they do there. And I remember I was waitressing at 18 and everyone would ask me, you know, are you going to college? What school are you in? And I would tell them no. And I just remember, probably because my energy would shift as well, but they would just kind of like look at me like, and it just propelled my story of, oh, you're never going to make it. You're dumb. You're going to have to do these really hard, odd jobs your whole life, because whenever you fill out your application, like I was lying on my applications, like just waiting to be fired when I would walk in, like, we found out you didn't graduate high school. You're out of here. Like, that's how I felt every day. I was living that way. Like, people are going to find out I'm a fraud. And I wish I could go back and like tell that person, like, you're going to be okay. Just keep working. Like, you've got amazing work ethic. Look at all of these other skill sets you have. But we just get so caught up in that one track mind. So my money mindset was really terrible. And I didn't even think that there was ever going to be a way out for me.
Yeah. Wow, it's cool because I had a lot of fear too, and I relate with you on the panic attacks. I didn't have my first one until like 2 years ago. But when I had that, I was like, oh, wow. I think for me, mine was I was working way too much, and I think I got burnt out. Mm-hmm. And so I lived with like a lot of fear even since then with panic attacks. And I've gotten better at it. I haven't had one in like 8 months, so I'm proud of myself. But
so good.
Yeah, but with the fear, I really relate with you on, and then the feeling like a fraud, because I think that, you know, when you don't really know yourself well and you're trying to like fit into what you're supposed to be and you're lost, it's a really scary feeling, and you don't have much confidence around those times. So I think for me, when I was doing like a job I didn't love, what was cool for me to see now is like, I think you start listening, like I listened to your podcast and I read these books and I started doing certain things to get my mindset to believe I could have more. And so during that period, I think I was like, every day I was driving to that job and being like, oh, I don't like driving here, but I would get in the morning, get in my car in the morning, and I'd play something to get me in the right mindset, be in a positive mood to start my day, and then maybe get to a job that I don't love and then have to start lifting myself back up the next day and then constantly do it. But I think what was hard for me during that time, I was like, okay, it's been 3 years of me being positive and getting my mindset right, and I still don't have it. Like, I still am here, you know? And so comparing yourself and comparing your life and where you think you're supposed to be is really hard too, when you're trying to get out of that belief. But it's all like different for your time, and it's just beautiful for me to see that even during that time of feeling like I wasn't actually getting there, I was. It's like all those little steps are helping you like unwire.
It's like working out, man. You don't even like, you're like, I have been in the gym every day this year. What is happening? And then year 2, you're like, oh, there we go. Now I'm seeing like all the shapes and all the strength and all of the things. But I think of it though, even now, as far as I've come on my journey, just after doing this for years and years and years, it's like every day is still day one. I still wake up and I'm like, how did I go to bed last night? Like, you know, you do all this work to feel good and you do all of these different things, and you wake up the next morning and there's some mornings where I'm still like, meh, or feel afraid of something, or don't know if I have what it takes to accomplish the dreams that I've set out for myself. And that's why you have these rituals and routines and the people that's why we have community. Like, literally, that's why you have the people in your life. Is if we were meant to do this alone, the world would just have one person on it. Yeah. And so true. I really believe that all of our answers and all of our treasures and everything is locked in other people. Wow. And we have to go every day and go unlock what we need by talking to other people, by asking questions, by connecting, by getting in community. And that's what's changed my life. Like, supporting yourself with people, for sure.
Wow, that's cool. How do you go about like disassociating yourself? Like, if someone feels like they are their fear and it's like their identity, what steps can you give someone as advice to like get out of that, or like push past it to start something?
Well, I had to start saying things like, I don't have anxiety, like I'm experiencing anxiety.
Yeah.
Because I think about a time, like I want you to think back to when you were 8 years old, or maybe it was earlier because some of us lose it faster, but between like 5 and 8 years old, were you always anxious? Were you afraid of things? Like do you remember what you were like when you were like 5 or 6?
Yes.
What were you like?
I really loved attention as a kid, but it was because my mom was going through something hard and she didn't give me attention, so I was seeking it so much. So I was always told, like, you're so dramatic, and I'd always be like louder and stuff because I wanted attention.
Yeah. I mean, and I think at the core, we all want attention because we do. And it's actually, I think the only thing is our only journey in life is to figure out how to get healthy attention.
Yeah.
That's it. Because we're all going to get it. Trust me, my 20s were just a shit show of trying to get really bad attention. So I have learned how to now get good attention, and that is the key. Yeah. But if you think back to when you were young, like whether you would have gotten attention from your parent or not, you still craved attention because humans crave attention. And when you think of what fear and anxiety is, it's like, ooh, I kind of get a little freaked out around a certain attention. Like I don't want negative attention because somewhere in your life you got negative attention and it didn't feel good and you don't want to be seen during that time. So there's a part of us that will always try to protect ourselves more than we'll try to put ourselves out there. But if you're not putting yourself out there, then you're not actually living the purpose of your entire life, which then you will experience more pain. So I actually think the pain of getting some negative attention far outweighs the pain of not getting the attention for the reason why you were sent here.
Yeah, that's so true.
To do it. So I always try to compare that. Like, I know that if I don't go for my dream or that thing that you want, or to use the skill set that you know you're really good at, that's inside of you, I think that you're going to feel far more pain, and what happens is we're going to start to sabotage ourselves. So for me, I noticed that when I wasn't going for what I wanted, I would sabotage my relationships. Like I would start to get mad at my husband, or if I had if it was earlier, like boyfriend at the time, or I would push away my friends, or I would make people bad, or I would judge them, or I'd start to get really critical of people. And there's a really beautiful quote by Richard Rohr, and it says, if you don't learn how to transform your pain, you'll transfer it. Wow. So if we don't learn how to transform that pain into a way to be able to help people, and that's all we're doing today. Like we're literally sitting here and taking the pain of our fear or our anxiety or of something that happened to us, and I'm saying, and you're sitting here saying the same thing. I'm teaching from this experience because it's the only way that I can teach. So we've both learned how to take the things we're most afraid of and tell people what we did to not be afraid of them anymore, or our terrible money mindsets, and to say, like, here's how we started to fix them. And so what happens if we don't transform that is we will transfer it to the people around us, and eventually your life will not reflect anything. It will only reflect pain.
That's so crazy. And you know what's really wild too is I think once you start getting into spirituality and you try to have like a positive mindset and you try to get your day on track and be in a good vibration so that you could go towards your dreams, you almost judge yourself almost more when you're being negative.
You definitely can. I was just talking to my husband about this. I'm like, oh my God, I can over personal development myself to death, because I'll be on a walk and I'll be like, I know I'm not supposed to feel this way. Like I have all the tools, I've done everything, and I still feel this way. Am I rejecting it? Like what's wrong with me?
You judge it more.
You're still human. Nothing superhuman happened about you just because you learned some tools. Like they're tools. You use them every single day. Just because you learned about the gym doesn't mean that you're fit now. And you don't judge yourself for not going. You just have to go every single day.
Exactly. And I think that was a big like overcoming for me, is to see that like, okay, there's going to be days I'm negative and I don't feel like it and stuff, but it's all about the times when you do, is to like really milk those times and focus on it and put yourself in towards the things you want. And so to not judge yourself so much that because you're negative today, or because you feel fear that you're not going to make it still. Because I'm like, I remember specifically, I told this story because it's like such a crazy moment for me, is when I first got this house, I visualized this house forever. And I had a birthday party, I had all my friends over, and I've always wanted to do that at a place I have. And so one of the times I was like walking up the stairs and I had like a moment where I was like, this is so cool. And I'm like, and even all the times I doubted myself and cried in my room or failed at so many businesses I started, like I still got here. So that's so cool.
I love that story so much.
Yeah.
I can resonate with it. I've had a moment in a house like that where I like fell to my knees because I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I did it. Like it's here, because you can be so in it that when it comes, you forget that you had been working on that for so many years, for so long. And I think there's like a beautiful, just even lesson in what you said, to stop and reflect back at how far that you've come more frequently. That's one thing I wish I could go back and do, is to tell myself to stop and look at how well I'm doing, just with even keeping up with the practices. Like, look how good you're doing from either where you came from or what you used to believe. Like, and that's all serving you. There was nothing ever wasted. So because I used to look at where I came from and be like, oh, I'm so pissed that I got like the short end of the stick. Where would I be right now if I would have been raised in a family like that? Or if I would have grown up in California and you can't think that ever, because I think everything on our journeys is serving us for where we need to go. Like you can't miss any piece of it. Yeah. Because it's going to serve somebody in a way that you can't imagine. And those experiences are like, you'll be able to speak and teach from those experiences so much more than like, oh, hey, yeah, my life is awesome and I can't really tell you anything because it's just always been good. Exactly. I don't know. It's just been so easy. Like that podcast would suck. Yeah.
And it's what's so wild for me. And then I want to go into hearing your morning routine because I'm so curious. But when I got held back when I was younger, I was in second grade. But before that, like I can remember memories of me walking around elementary school. And I'm not kidding you. I had like 6 girls behind me following me around the playground. But like I didn't even like, it's not like I felt like follow me. I just was like, this is normal. Like everyone just does what I do. Like it felt completely normal. Like crazy. I don't know who that little girl was. I'm like, who were you? I don't recognize that person. Yeah. Like now, and like, wow, you were so confident. I was just like, I'm going to go to the monkey bars. And then everyone followed me. I'm going to go get some food. And everyone followed me. And my sister always tells me, she's like, I remember walking, because we were in the same elementary school, walking, and I'd see these people following you. I'm like, what the heck? Because she barely had any friends. And then when I got held back, it like hurt my confidence so bad. And so I remember the day that the elementary school teacher brought in my parents and was like, so we think she should be held back. And then they said to me, my parents, they were not from the USA. They didn't even know what getting held back really was, because it didn't exist where they were from. Right. And so they looked at me and they're like, Tara, what do you think? And I just remember wanting to be like loved so much. So I'm like, yeah, sure. Like I just said yes. And so I agreed with it. And then for so long, it was like the worst thing that ever happened to me, because the cool kids are always older. And then I felt like I didn't fit in with these kids, and I was always tall. And so then I feel like I made the wrong decision for me. So then I had a really hard thing with decision making and not trusting myself with my decisions.
Oh, I can see that spiral happening.
Yeah. And so that's still something I work on now, is the decision making and the confidence with it. But it's so true, because if I was just so confident and I kept going, I'd probably be a whole different person if I didn't get held back and all that happened. I don't even know who I'd be.
And now, I mean, is this one of your favorite things you do? Like learning about people and talking and learning like what kind of stopped you, but what are you overcoming, and where did that change your direction into what you're doing now? And can you, I'm like, now I'm switching it to like it's my podcast already. Sorry. I'm interviewing her right after this. I'm like, that's so good. Tell me more. Okay, so how did you overcome that?
I mean, it's still something I struggle with today, but I think the first step was even seeing it. And so working on myself, realizing what my traumas are. And trauma is such a crazy word, but trauma is such a big word that some people think that it has to be something crazy. But like a trauma is just the way you perceived something. And at that time, it was a very harsh experience for you. And so sometimes you could look back at like pains in your life and be like, oh, that's not that big of a deal now, but you don't know that that thing was really affecting you this whole time.
Totally.
So doing inner work and digging and figuring out that really hurt my confidence and feeling smart, and indecisiveness was a huge thing for me. So first just seeing that was a thing and then working on it and knowing that just because I said yes to getting held back doesn't mean it was all my choice. Like I was in second grade.
Yeah, you were making the best decision for what you knew. And our decisions when we're young are typically based off of fitting in, because that is survival. So you made a survival choice. So congratulations for being a survivor.
Yeah. I know, it's so crazy.
Yeah, it's trauma's interesting, like you had just said, because I used to be like, oh, I don't have a trauma compared to other people. But trauma is really just a point in your life where I think, as I'm listening to you speak, I'm just saying this as we go, but it's like a moment where it covers up that part of the real you or takes something away from you, like of who you were. And we can have a ton of those moments in our life where all of a sudden you're this like, you know, like you said, this outgoing, like we're almost this clean slate coming into the world, and someone comes and marks it up and just kind of covers it up and colors you in. And it's like those moments can either shape you into the most magnificent person on the planet if you let them. Like I really believe they can serve you, or they can cover you up and completely erase you, which is a crazy thought too.
That's
but
so true.
It's like whenever they come in, if anything is ever happening, it's really hard to do, and you don't need to do it right away because you obviously want to feel the pain and process it. But when things that feel very big to me come into my life, I'm like, I am trusting that this is serving me. I don't need to find out how right now. I can just feel, but I'm going to trust that on the journey of a year or 5 years, that this is going to be something that's going to reveal something really beautiful to me.
That's cool. It's
It's
good.
hard, but if you can think that once, if you can even think it once while something is happening, then it will help you get through it.
That's so powerful. Wow. Thank you. I needed that too, first stuff. Okay. I really want to know about your morning routines. How do you get yourself in a good mindset?
I sleep till noon. I'm just kidding. I'm like, I don't even know if I could sleep till noon anymore. That sounds luxurious. So in the mornings, I typically, my sheepadoodles wake me up. I'd love to sleep until 7, but they wake me up at like 5:30 right now or 6.
Wow.
I know, I'm not loving it, but it lets me do a little bit more in the morning. So I love to read or listen to something in the morning. So I've always been either a book reader, or I like to listen to something on Audible, or right now I'm actually listening to Gabby Bernstein's app because she has all of her lectures on there. Okay. So I'm just kind of listening to all the lectures that are on the app. And then I drink coffee. Love coffee with creamer. I think it's Califia Farms, whatever. It's like the best creamer ever. Wow. And then I go for a walk every single morning. Like I used to try to meditate, and I did meditate like very consistently for probably about 4 years. And I just found that trying to read, walk, meditate, and then go to the gym some days. Like if I decide to go, I usually go 2 or 3 times a week, and walk these dogs as well, which is 3-mile walk because they're huge dogs that they need. It just felt so overwhelming to me that I started to have this realization that my morning routine that was supposed to make me feel better was giving me anxiety. Like I was like, I didn't meditate. I need to meditate. What am I doing? So I've turned my walk into like a moving meditation. Every single walk we do something called the Power 9. So on our walk we do, my husband and I do 3 gratitudes, 3 things we're excited about, and 3 things we're manifesting. Wow. And then we just throw in 1 wish well. So someone we wish well for that makes us think of somebody else. Wow. And we've done this every day for probably like over 10 years. And it is life-changing. And there's a couple of reasons why it's life-changing. Number 1 is I get so disconnected even from what I want, I forget. Like I forget what I'm excited about and what I'm focusing on. Number 2, if you can do it with somebody or a friend, even if you don't have a partner, like sometimes if my husband's gone or if I have a friend who I know also does this, I'll voice note her and be like, hey, here's my 3 things I'm excited about, grateful for, manifesting. And it takes me 2 minutes or whatever on a voice note. So you can do that with someone, but it also connects you to people. So my husband and I have been together over 20 years. And I think it's because we've had rituals like this every single day from almost the start, like 3 years in, we started doing personal development together. So And it helped us like connect and create a language around how we were feeling and how we were not connecting and how we were using totally different languages. It kind of like put us on the same path somewhat. Sometimes he'd be ahead, sometimes I'd be ahead. It was all different paths, but you end up figuring it out if you're both on the path of growth. That's one thing I can say. If you're both on the path of growth, then you're good. But back to the morning routine, those are the things that has been the most grounding and life-changing and connecting for me.
So when you wish someone well, what does that do? Like what energetically does that do?
I think it just gets you, sometimes if you're feeling bad, like even if the 9 things didn't make me feel that great, it gets me out of my head and goes, oh, some people are struggling with a lot more than me. Because you wish well, you typically wish well for people who maybe aren't doing as good as you would love for them to be doing, or they're struggling with something. So there's a quote that says, when you're feeling helpless, help someone. And I think it's kind of the cherry on the top that says, hey, are you out of your head yet? Like there's people that you could be helping today, or there's somebody who needs this more than you today. And I'm like, whoa, my life's actually really good. And I wish well for them on their health, or I hope that they, are dealing with this situation, whatever. You can say a prayer around them or whatever that is. And it gets you out of your head.
I love that. What I've been doing every morning, and I'm not good at meditating either. I used to be. I went to a 10-day meditation. You probably heard of it. The Vipassana one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I got really into meditation, but I haven't been able to commit to it. But what I do is I wake up and then a lot of times I would go on a walk right away too. And then I come back and I call it Billionaire morning.
I love this.
And
tell me how.
Yeah. And I write down an entire thing about like my life's movie on like what I'm going to have in my life and the things I'm going to accomplish. And then I say it as if it's present.
You do this every morning.
Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, so as if it's present tense, I read the whole thing. And then I play music while I'm reading it so that I get in a good vibration. But sometimes I don't feel in a good vibe, no matter if I want to.
Yeah.
And then I try to journal some things that I want to like work on today, and then I just go into it. So mine's been way quicker, but just even getting myself to do that every morning,
Yes.
I'm like, I have this app called Habit, and I just mark the day. And then a new habit I created is no complaining. So every day I don't complain on anything. I write, oh, I didn't complain today.
Such a good trait. It's so hard to do.
So hard.
Oh my God, I struggle with that one.
Yeah, that's a really hard one. So let's get into money manifesting and your beliefs around money. I feel like I love this topic. I think everyone should have a good relationship with money. Obviously, it's like taboo that people feel like they want a lot of money. But like for me, I always try to say like, I'm going to be so wealthy beyond my wildest dreams, and nothing's going to be out of reach for me. Like I don't want to live a life where like I don't have a yacht or a jet. I know it's crazy, but and maybe that sounds shallow, but I don't.
We're good. This is a good safe room right here.
But that's why I always say like billion, because I just don't want to ever limit myself for something, and we live once. And so
aren't you limiting yourself with B?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you're right. And so
it keeps changing.
It just keeps flickering. Yeah. So like, even if it's like, feels so out of reach, I'm like, I just know like, I want to keep shooting for more and not feeling, I just want to live a life of like, not having any limit around something, not feeling like, oh, well, I can't do that. It's like, no, you can. Right. And
that's all money is. So I think what was really freeing for me and what was really helpful, because I had a religious money mindset, meaning that money was bad. Like if you wanted it, it was bad. Too much of it was bad. Money was the root of all evil. And like bad things happened around people with money. Well, if that's what you're looking for, you will certainly find that out there. But I know you've heard this before, but money is just an amplifier and a tool. And so when I hear you saying like you want money for different reasons, all I can hear is you want choice. You just want freedom of choice. You want the ability to be able to have an impact on whatever you want to have an impact on. You want to, I'm guessing, because I already feel like I know a lot about you, like you would do incredible things with that money. I'm guessing lots of women's businesses would be funded. I'm guessing your family would be having incredible experiences. I'm guessing that you would enrich the lives of every single person around you. And I don't want to ever not be able to do those things, because that's why I think I'm here, is to create experiences for people and also help them live their highest potential. And if we're being totally honest, that's going to cost a lot of money to fulfill that dream. And when people think money is bad, I think way more money. Like, I hope you become a billionaire so that we can start getting different decisions and movement on different things in the world. Because right now I just think money's in the hands of a lot of the same people, and they're just choosing certain ways to impact. And if we want to see different impact in the world, instead of going, why aren't they doing this? You have to accept it and say, if I want it done, it has to be me. And so, like, owning that for yourself and saying, if I care about that, I would care enough to try to make some money. It doesn't have to be $1 billion. It could be $100 that you could give to a charity, that you could give to somebody. If it really bothers you, certain things that you're seeing, money energetically and physically is going to be the fastest and biggest way that we can make an impact.
So true. So true. Yeah. And like, there's nothing that feels better. Like, when I started actually making money, I was so much more like, I love the feeling of abundance, of course, but I loved being able to take care of people around me. And as well as like little things like tipping a waiter more, like tipping the valet more, going to the valet and giving them good money, like the people that are actually like working hard and like taking care of them. Like, there's nothing that makes you feel better than being able to like give it back to people. So
it's the best.
Yeah, not even thinking about like, oh, I need to save this. Like, that's such a limiting mindset.
Oh my gosh. And the more that you can give it out like that, and I know you know this, like, the more you become a magnet for it.
Yeah, so true.
It's crazy. It takes a while.
What's the book?
Oh, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind?
Yeah, so good.
That book changed my life. I remember we had just lost our house. So we had, it was 2008 during that, like, the big recession. And my husband lost his job, and he was the main income earner, because at this point I was still stuck on my story that I wasn't smart enough. So I was doing retail jobs. I like worked at Ulta. I worked at like a drive-through coffee shop. I was a front desk girl at a hair salon for a while, because I wouldn't allow myself to go for jobs that I didn't think that I could get, because I was so afraid of the rejection that I never tried. I was like, I'm not smart. Why would I ever even try these things? So when the recession hit, my husband lost his job, we lost our house, we lost our cars. I was like, oh my God, I have to make money. Like, I have to learn how to make money, because I'm watching the person that I love the most lose his whole identity, and he needs me right now. Like, he needs help, because I just watched him become a shell of himself during that time, because everything he knew was gone. He couldn't just go get another job. There weren't any in what he knew. So it was a moment of, oh my God, my back is against the wall. I have to go and do something. So that is when I decided to go and try to start figuring it out, and became a personal trainer. I was like, what can I do? Okay, I can move my body.
Wow.
I can exercise. I know how to do that. I could help people with that. And it doesn't require a high school diploma. I could maybe like sneak and work my way around this. So I went all in on fitness, and that's why, because it didn't require a high school diploma.
Wow.
Also because I wanted to be fit, but that wasn't why I got into it at first. It was literally because it didn't require a high school diploma.
Wow, that's so cool. And it's cool now what you're doing, because fitness kind of relates to like mental and getting their mind in the right place. So did it kind of lead you to that?
It did. Yeah. So fitness was, I always say fitness is kind of like the first spiritual breakthrough for people, because what happens is you start moving your body and you start to feel better. Like, it's just the side effect of moving your body is serotonin and dopamine, which then opens up different pathways in your brain that you wouldn't have had access to. Like, you start to think creative, you start to think a little bit bigger, you start to not focus on problems when you're feeling that way. And so it opens up some things for you, like, hey, could I maybe see myself doing that? Oh, I have this like curiosity around this thing, or I feel like I have this dream, or I would love to do that. And so exercise opens that up for people. It just, all of a sudden you feel like you could be more. And so that's what happened for me, is exercise, doing it every single day, just had me dreaming all the time, and had me thinking bigger, and had me feeling really good in my body and more confident. And so it also had me realizing, when I was training people, that the working out was like the foundation, and they would start to want more. Like I would start to notice that they would start saying they had this other dream, or they wanted to quit their job, or unfortunately what I saw all the time was maybe my partner's not the right one for me because he doesn't want to grow now and I really want to grow. And I was like, oh God, what do I do? Like this was happening throughout my whole gym, because women would come and start working out and go, maybe I want more. Maybe I want more. And so I started really getting into personal development and mindset, not only for myself because I was experiencing that, but because all of the women I was training, I didn't know where to send them next. I was like, oh, they want more and they want to start making money now and they want to quit their jobs. And what do we do now? And personal development was the next thing. And then after personal development, I got really into business, because when women got into personal development, they're like, how do I keep this up? How do I pay for these things? I have these dreams. I want more. And so that's kind of how that all progressed.
Wow, that's so cool. Okay, I have so many questions for you. But first, with the money thing, what are some tricks or tips that you do around money so that you don't have like a ceiling or like a limiting belief on you making more money, for an example?
I'm always working on this, because we always settle at we have a thermostat no matter where we are. Like right now, you do have a thermostat of what feels comfortable. You know where you want to go, but there is a setting where you're 72 degrees right now. You're like, I'm comfortable right now. 80 is a little uncomfortable for me. Or like billion, 200 degrees is pretty uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
And so it takes some time to work your way up. So something that I've always done is I stay so open to the idea that I will be 100 millionaire or billionaire. Let's just go to billion.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that is there, but that doesn't feel real to me right now. So what does feel real to me is to think of like the next 6 months or the next year of where could I go and what could I do? And also so open to the idea that a creative solution could come in as well that is not even on my radar. And what I mean by that is there will be moments in your life that you can either grab onto like a memory, or you can use someone else as an example. Like if you know somebody who just got an opportunity that they got an offer to be a part of something, and it was, who knows, let's just pick a random number. It was 200K, and it was from out of the blue. That wasn't even on their radar of what they had planned for what they were going to make that particular year or how they were going to do it. Staying open to like a creative solution for money coming in is always really important. Like on my manifests or on my excited about, sometimes I'm like, I'm so excited about a new creative opportunity that I don't even know about that's coming into my life this year for over X amount. And so I play that all the time. That's and so it literally just happened to me like, oh, well, now it's a year, but it was like from out of the blue, like out of left field in 1 week, a very large amount of income came in that I wasn't, but I was manifesting it. Like I was saying it every single day. And so what happens when you do that is that you also like see all the opportunity around you. So when you're open to creative ways of getting income into your life, like let's just say right now, if I was completely open to a way of getting creative income and you and I had something so in common that I was sitting here where normally I'd hold back and not say, hey, I think there's something there. Or what if we started this thing? I wouldn't say that because I'm not open to a creative way of making more money. But if I saw a way that you and I could make money together and I'm really, really open to it and I've been manifesting it, I would say, could we like talk about something that I feel like we could actually maybe either partner on, or I think we could really serve each other in this way? Like you're going to bring in those opportunities and ask for them and see them and spot them. And so those are really big things that we do now. Like we actually just partnered with some people because we were like, this would be a really fun way to make money. They could be in their zone of genius. We could be in our zone of genius. And together, I think we could have a lot of fun. And so that's what I mean when I say staying really open to creative possibilities.
I love that. That's so cool. That's good for me to know too. I like that one. Have you ever been feeling like stuck in a situation with money? Like you feel like you can't, for some reason, you're like in a rut and you can't make more?
Yes.
Yeah, I felt that.
Yeah. And I can't figure out why we have those seasons. Like it's like a drought.
Yeah.
Like what is happening? Or maybe you're even going backwards. I typically think, as I'm looking back, I think that they have always had to do with times when maybe I'm staying in something that I know too long. Like maybe there's a chapter of your life that you're staying in too long, or maybe it's trying to redirect you. I think sometimes when we're stuck in those phases, it's like a moment to assess that maybe it's a redirection. Maybe you should look at something different. Maybe if you keep going down this path, you're not going to like it, even though you know it can make you money and you know how to do it. But there's something that's trying to open up for you. And sometimes that, most all the time, it's going to be a transition period. So you have to know that even though you've made a lot of money in one thing, it doesn't mean you're going to transition smoothly into the next thing. But I do believe the next thing offers even more, if that's what you believe. So there's no going backward, in my personal opinion. It's all just forward movement. But the reality can reflect to you that you're going backward, but you're actually not. You're moving forward. You're moving out of something. So you're going to take all of those lessons that you've learned and apply them to the new thing that you can be even more abundant in. But I think that everything in our life, especially when we feel stuck or when we feel trapped or when we're like, why isn't this working? It's most likely a redirection in some form. So it's either a full-on redirection of what you should be doing, or it's a redirection in the way that you're doing it. So it's always, especially with the times changing so fast right now, and they're just going to go even faster, the money never goes away, it just moves. It just went somewhere else. So where is it? And how is your skill set and your ability going to best be used in order to get that? Because I think that the times where it's felt stuck is because I just don't want to be doing this. I don't want to be doing this thing anymore. It's not where my soul is anymore. It's like, even though I knew that I could be in the fitness world and I had an incredible membership with thousands of women on it, I actually stopped it in the middle with 1,500 monthly paying members because I couldn't, it's like I literally couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't get the memberships up anymore, and I couldn't understand why. I was like, I just energetically was done with that chapter in my life, and I had to close it down in order for the next really big thing to open up. And that was a tough transition because my husband did not understand. He was like, this is the stupidest thing you've ever done. Like, he said that. You're walking away from so much money. Why can't you just keep doing this? It's not that hard. And I was like, because I'm so blocked around what's supposed to come next that I need to just focus on these other things instead of staying here. So money can also be shackles. It can be handcuffs because we're so afraid of walking away from it because we don't trust that there's more. And money wants you to trust it. Like, money is just an energy. Like, money's just, if you believe in the universe or God, like, I think it's just a universal energy. It's just a tool that you also have to trust. And I was just listening to the book Conversations with God yesterday, and whether you believe in God, universe, it's a great listen. And he was saying, quote unquote, God was saying, I want you to have everything that you want. Like, I literally don't want you to judge it. You're the only person blocking what it is that you want. I want you to have this experience. I want you to have the money. And so whenever I think about that, because universe, God is abundant, like, they want you to have that experience and have it all. That's why it's all here. And I have to always remember the only thing blocking me is me. The only thing blocking me is me, and the fact that I'm not trusting that there's more. And I will tell you, in my life experience now of like 15, 20 years of doing this, there's always more and then some. But the journey to get there is scary. It is a free fall. There's a lot of times where it will look bleak, where it will feel scary, where your bank account might not be looking so hot, might be a little red. And you have to just keep on moving forward and know that some of the best decisions in your life will be made when your back is up against the wall.
Wow. That's so powerful what you just spoke about. I've been in those situations so many times. And sometimes I still it's hard to know when you're supposed to move on from something. And it's probably very scary for a lot of people if they have like a consistent, steady job right now, you know?
Totally.
So yeah, I don't even know where to ask you from then, because I was just like, wow.
I've had that on podcasts where I'm like, I'm so sorry I was really in that, so I'm going to need a minute. Yeah, I'm like, that's amazing.
So you've been in a long relationship, and I feel like nowadays it's very hard to find couples that are like really healthy and encourage each other and inspire each other and want to be their best versions. So how do you go about knowing when someone is right for you and when you should stay and continue to work on it, and then knowing when you should be like, okay, it's not for me anymore?
Yeah, it's such a hard question because people want answers now and they want to know the feelings now. And I will tell you, when I first met my husband, like, I didn't think he was my husband at all. I was like in love with someone else. I was not, he was not checking off the boxes of what I thought my type was. It was way too stable, like, which meant boring to me. I was like, we didn't have the ups and downs. He was like very into business and just, he was fun, but I was so used to dating either like artists or musicians, or I was really into people who skateboarded and snowboarded and all of that stuff back then. And I just, like, he was not my guy. And so what happened is he just, over time, we became really, really good friends. And it was probably 6 months into our relationship, and he was the person I was hanging out with the most while kind of recovering from this breakup, while I'm telling him the stories about, like, I'm still in love with this guy. This poor guy, my husband's name is Chris, and he was like, I didn't care because I knew we were going to end up together, so whatever. Like, he's so persistent.
Wow.
And so I end up just one day realizing that I had been in these relationships that it was just so up and down. Like, I just was either, it was so high or it was so low. And I didn't actually want that. I had always dreamt about having, at this point, I had never actually even had like a real best friend in my life, because in that congregation I grew up, I didn't really have a lot of girls to choose from. And so my dream my whole life was to like have a best friend, but I didn't realize it was going to come in the form of a man. I just always thought your best friend was your girlfriend, and then your partner was this guy who maybe you were on this roller coaster relationship where it was great and then it was terrible. That's what I thought. That's what I saw with my parents as well. And so he was just way too normal. And all of a sudden, 6 months into this relationship, I was like, this is really amazing. Like, this is one of the most beautiful, solid relationships I've ever experienced in my entire life. Like, this person is here no matter what, and is so like solid through everything that I've gone through, that I started to notice how close you can get with that type of person. Like, it's a different level of closeness. And I don't know, it just flipped literally one day. We had gone out drinking the night before and went to a casino buffet. And I literally, this is not the romantic story people think. We're sitting there kind of hungover, and I'm eating probably macaroni and cheese. And I like felt like I was in love with this person.
Wow.
Like, all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, this is the best friend I've been waiting for my entire life.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
And over a buffet in a casino. And so things just naturally started to like change from there, obviously, because I had this feeling now that he had been feeling the whole time. But fast forward, that wasn't it. It wasn't all fairy tale after that. We had to go through a lot of stuff. Him and I went through, you know, him losing his job and homes, and through being $300,000 in debt in the Midwest, which was like millions of dollars back then. And I will tell you that, you know, we've had a lot of ups and downs, even with he came and worked in my business for a while. And when he came and did that after losing his job, I thought I'd married the wrong person.
Wow.
And the reason for that was because he was so used to all day long going and being with, he managed like thousands of men throughout the Midwest, with maybe one woman at every 10 branches that he had managed. So very, very masculine energy. And it was in the finance world. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen Boiler Room, but kind of like that energy. Wow. And so he came home to work in my business, which was very like female centric, like events, personal development, like sales, different things like that. And he was just saying these things and using this language that I didn't, it was like so masculine, and you need to make this many sales, and why are you doing this, and why are you sitting there, like, aren't you supposed to be doing this and that? And I was like, oh my God, I married the wrong person. Like, this human is horrible. Like, I didn't like how he was talking to me. I didn't like his language. We were on two totally different wavelengths. And this is also when we started doing personal development. So thankfully, I had some languaging around it. We had just started going to some events, and I remember we went to Landmark Forum. It's either for you or it's not. But if you go, just keep an open mind.
Yeah, I've been there.
Okay, you know what I'm talking about then. It can be a lot at first, especially if that was your first event. But we had some language to put to some things. So it was like, oh, you're telling a story right now, when it's something that I'm not able to see, that is maybe something that I have in my head that I'm not willing to talk through. And this applies because in this time right now, everyone just like gets rid of relationships right away. If they don't like something, if someone's not treating them right, if they're saying something that they don't love, like, you're done. I'm going to go out with someone else now. Except if we can start to learn how to communicate, like communication is our biggest problem, in my personal opinion right now, is thinking that relationships are disposable and that we don't know how to communicate with each other. If we had communication skills, we would probably be blessed with so many more relationships and such deeper connection that it's a whole world that I really want people to be able to tap into, because I think it's lonely if you don't. It's a really lonely existence if you can't do it. So we started to be able to say, hey, what you just said made me feel this way because maybe this triggered this, or because this something from my past, this is how I'm feeling right now. And instead of saying, hey, you're saying this, you're doing this, you're always doing this, you're bad, you're whatever, blaming the other person, it's looking at how they had triggered you and sharing that. Like, hey, I know that maybe you didn't mean this when you said it, but here's what came up for me. And so those conversations don't go well in the beginning because they're new and they're dumb. They sound stupid to you. You're like, oh, you're so smart and you're so educated, and you can make fun of each other for that, and then it can get even worse. Or you can decide to say, are we in this for the long run? Like, if you're with someone and you want to be with them, you first have to say, are we in this for the long run? Do you believe that we're in this for the long run? Do you want that? Okay, if the answer is yes, then let's talk about it. Because why do we want to be in this and fight? Like, what do we want to understand each other, and do we want to know each other's triggers, and do we want to know what sets each other off, and how I can make you happier, and how I can take this day from a 6 to a 10? Like, what does that look like? Your conversations change when you know that you want to be in something with someone. And I think that's what's happening right now, is nobody knows if they want to be in something with someone. That's a weird thing to ask. And so you don't get the depth without knowing that. So I think it's going to be a lot of brave people who are going to get the relationships in life that they want and the friendships that they want. Because now with girlfriends, I don't mess around. I'm not like, oh, she was weird, so I'm not going to call, or I'm going to ghost that person, or I don't want to be with it. Like, you're going to know how I feel, and you're going to know if I want to do something with you, and you're going to know if I was offended, and you're going to know if I'm hurt. Like, I'm not going to play games. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, that's so true.
So, like, if we all just started communicating and saying how we felt and that we're in this and we want to remain friends, that's the fear, right? It's just always protection. Like, if a girl says something, the only reason you would ever ghost if you were friends is because you don't want to be hurt. Otherwise, you would go have the conversation, or you're avoiding pain.
So true.
But relationships are painful, but they're also the most beautiful part of your life.
That's so true. I think for me, what I experienced a lot was, I'm so deep, and like I can't have surface level conversations. That's why I love talking with you. But I like, it's not as common to find that in another guy.
Yeah.
So like, I've dated where they don't really want to open up, or it's more work for them to talk about these things, or see where their pains are coming from, or see how they're being in a certain way. And so that's been hard for me, because it's like, I love doing that. It's like my full-time, I do that for fulfillment, you know?
Totally. So one thing I'll say, just because my husband at first was like, he literally would sit across the table from me. This is when because him and I we've been touch and go probably maybe 4 times in our relationship, where it was like, because you're on different growth paths.
Yeah.
And anyone who's been in a long relationship will say the same thing. There will be times where you're not sure. You want to, but if you want to stay together, that's the key. If you want to stay together, I believe you'll make it through it. But he was like, why do we always have to talk about deep things? Like, he's like, I don't want to. Like, sometimes I just want to pick up my fantasy lineup. Like, I just want to stare at, I don't know if I said that right, but like, he literally is like, I just want to sit here and like talk about whatever is on the surface. Like, he would just say stupid things like that. Like, I'm like, okay, what does this even mean? And so I learned to like go slower with him in certain points, and to find a different common ground that wasn't that, but know that he could go deeper. So part of me was like, okay, not everybody can go. Like, takes a different type of person. So I started getting girlfriends who would do that with me a lot more, and spending a lot of time with them, but then coming back and knowing that we could go there, and eventually we started going there more and more and more. But him and I are more like, he doesn't like to talk about this stuff as much. This is more my girlfriend stuff, but we go deep on business. Like, we love to go there, or he'll let me like analyze people to death. But he'll hold space for it, but he's not necessarily going to be the person who I'm going to be like, hey, let's go talk about these things for like 4 hours. So I've learned that the more that I filled my life with really enriching human beings and friendships, the less that he has had to be for me, the less that he's had to be everyone for me.
Wow.
And the more he can be him. Like, it's pretty amazing how it's freed me up. And yes, we can go super deep in some areas, but just, I've got my girlfriends who I'm going to be like, okay, let's sit for 4 hours and talk about whatever, something crazy.
Yeah. That's so cool and powerful for me to hear too, because I think once I built my business and I got more successful, I felt like, I don't know, a lot of the girlfriends around me, I feel like I'm always helping them. Like I'm very much like a teacher and give like myself to them. So
Yes.
it's very like give of like, how can I help you? And why aren't you going after
Totally
your dreams? And
went
what
through
is
that.
stopping you? And like, it's like, I'm always doing that
You're like,
with my
should I
friends.
charge my friendships?
Yeah, I'm like always, that's my like full-time job.
Yes.
So it's been hard for me to like find people that are like give and take that actually want to help me too.
That will fill in. So I think your late 20s, early 30s, like that's a lot of, if you're on a spiritual path, if you're on like a big growth path, what's happening is that all the people around you they're looking to you as kind of their guide through this. And what
Yeah.
happens if you don't go and find people who are either beyond you on the path or exactly where you are on the path, you're going to get really, really exhausted. And it doesn't make those people bad whatsoever. It means that you haven't filled your cup up enough with other people yet. It's like such a transitional period. I swear I talked to so many people who have had the exact same experience, and I went through that so much. You have to make sure that you are equally finding things that fill you up. Otherwise, you'll start to look at your relationships as something that drains you rather than something that fills you up. And it won't be because it's their fault. It'll be because you are always accessible. And the person who, instead of I guarantee when they ask you, how are you? You say, fine. And then you say, how are you? And only pour into them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Instead of saying, well, here's where I'm at, because you don't trust that they could maybe give you back what you need.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, I feel like that's what I'm going through right now, is having a hard time figuring out how to find those females in my life that are also like empowered, doing what they want to do in their
Girlfriends in
life.
Business. They're all there.
I would love to.
Yeah. Come be my guest. It's February 3rd. Come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've noticed
I'm
that
actually
like,
dead serious.
I would love to.
You will freak out.
I was going to say, because I've noticed that mostly men are very like, they don't really need anything. So I find like relationships with men is where it mostly fulfilled back.
Yeah.
Because then they're like, masculine energy is to help, you know?
Totally.
And so
Exactly.
I like give over here and then I'm gaining over here rather
For
than
sure.
finding like an equal. So that's cool. So go into like your community and how you've created community and what that's done for you.
Oh my gosh. Well, community has been everything for me. And it's funny because community was one of those things that I was freaked out by because, again, not a lot of friends. And then when I did get friends, I got crappy friends. So then I had stories around my friends, like women are backstabbers, they're catty, they talk about you, they gossip. So I got along way better with men. Like I'd always just gotten along better with men because they're not dramatic. Yeah. And so my story around female friends was that I did not want them because I didn't trust them. And I also simultaneously was lacking. Like I felt like a half empty person for a lot of my life and couldn't figure out why. I just could not figure out why. And now I know it's because I was lacking like really deep community with women as well. It's life-changing. It is like the most transformative thing I've ever experienced. And when I'm talking about it, it doesn't mean you won't ever be hurt by community, because you will.
Yeah.
But you'll also be hurt by anyone that you love. And
It's true.
The theme that I just talked about in partnership is do not dispose of people the second that they disappoint you. You will be alone on an island. And I think a lot of people are alone on an island right now. So community has changed my life because they are the fastest way to come back from anything.
Wow.
Like you can't fail when you have community. They are a launch pad and a crash pad, because if you have somebody that you know is in your corner no matter what, you will take more risks in your life. It's actually proven, like statistically proven, that when they've asked people who have taken big risks or done big things or sold big companies, they are willing to take more risks and do bigger things, which is required in becoming successful, because they know that even if they fail, they'll be accepted.
Wow.
And the people who don't take risks are afraid they'll be rejected.
Wow.
And so community is going to be your most important thing that you can work on building, but it's going to take time and it's going to take effort. It doesn't happen overnight. In 1 year, you're not like, look at this amazing community around me. Like, it took me about 3 years to feel like I had built a decent foundation. And it's really uncomfortable. Like, I'm an introverted extrovert. Everyone thinks I'm an extrovert, but I actually am going to go stare at a wall after podcasting today and be alone.
Yeah.
And I don't love being in rooms with people, yet I curate rooms with people because if I'm in a room with people, I want it to matter. Like, I want to have facilitated questions. I want to get to the point. I want to go deeper. Like, I don't want surface level. I don't want to waste my time because I want those moments to mean something with people. So I create these rooms. I go into these places. I go into masterminds. I go to the events. I go to places where I know the conversations that I want are happening and I don't waste time. I used to go to like these random networking events and stuff in LA.
Yeah.
Never again. I was like, no, because nobody knows how to ask deeper questions. We don't really know why we're there, even though it's like, what if we all went here with the intention of furthering each other's business? Like, what would that look like? What questions would we be asking? How could we help each other? So I facilitate like really intentional community now.
Wow.
And if I want friends, I'm probably going to be looking in that community as well. Like, okay, they're like-minded. Although I do have other friends too who also just like to travel, but I only travel with them. I don't do other things with them, you know? So I have different friends in different community for different needs.
How do you know when a friend should be in your life or shouldn't? Like how you're saying, don't discard of people. I've had trust issues as I've grown my business, and I've just had situations where people have taken a lot from me or taken things from me and not had good intentions. And so I've gotten more like closed off with who I'm let close to me. So how do you know when something is worth like keeping them in your life, or when it's kind of like,
okay, don't dispose of people, but dispose of people. Okay.
Yeah.
So for real, like there are definitely things people that you need to walk away from for sure. But there's a beautiful book by Carolyn Miss, and it talks about soul contracts. And when we overstay a soul contract, that is when we start to say, oh, they're toxic. No, you just kept the onion for too long. Like it's now expired. You were keeping a relationship that was only meant to be a year or 5 years on your journey, and you're trying to hold on to it for your whole journey, but it was done. Like you guys fulfilled the contract that you had together. And so, I think of this a lot with people's like high school friends, and they're like, especially women, we think we need to carry them through our whole lives. You guys are different people. Like the one thing you had in common was high school, and when it was done, you guys are done. Like every relationship is not a lifetime. And that has freed me up so much, realizing that when a soul contract is done, it's going to start to not feel good. And if you keep it too long, it will go bad, and it's going to end very badly. And even though it probably won't end in the way that you want anyway, because walking away from relationships is hard, that it has to be okay to walk away. You cannot carry everybody with you. You can't carry them on your back, especially if they're not willing to grow or to change, or what that looks like. So how do you know when to walk away is if you've invited them along the journey, and if you have told them where you're going and they're not excited, or it doesn't feel good, or they're really draining you, or the person that you are becoming is not the person that they are like leaning on, or the person that they needed something from, that's typically a huge sign that it's okay to let that one start to dissolve. And when I say dissolve, it's like, okay, well, if you notice yourself and they're texting you and they want to do something with you, and you notice that you're texting back and leading them on, even though you don't want to do something. Like you kind of have to say, I don't really like to do that anymore, but if you want to come with me here, you're welcome to come. Guess what? They're not coming. Like they're not going to do that, you know, or I'm staying in tonight because I don't really love going out anymore. I hope that you understand that, but I'm going to this event on the weekend if you want to go with me. Or whatever that looks like.
Because who you hang out with is so important, and the way that they think, and it rubs off on you. So I feel like that's where I've had a hard time, as I'm like, okay, well, if I now see certain ways that they're acting out in their life that I don't want, that I don't feel like is aligned with me, then I'm like, okay, then they're on a different path.
Yeah.
Which sometimes, they are, but maybe I'm being a little too like picky right away.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a good question. So if there's still a part within them that is serving a part of your life, meaning, let's say that same person who, I don't know, I'm like, can you give an example? What are they doing that's not aligning?
Like maybe someone that's still like partying all the time or needs to go out all the time.
Okay, if there's something they're still doing that you can like jive with, like maybe maybe you guys like to go take a hip hop dance class together or something.
Yeah.
Only do that.
Yeah, that's true.
Only do that. Don't write them off yet. Like, just see if that relationship can work. And you can be like, well, you can even ask them about their crazy, obviously, like shenanigans. And if that entertains you and you get to use it on a podcast, because it's like, I have this friend who loves to party. We only connect on like hip hop dancing, but we really connect here. So, because I absolutely have people now, I just categorize them.
Yeah,
like,
so true.
It's literally knowing who is in your life for what reason. And so I used to have like a best friend checklist. And if they didn't work out, if they didn't like personal development, if they didn't, like X, Y, and Z, all these different things that I like, then I wasn't interested. Like women were constantly disappointing me in friendships because I wanted them to be everything, like this dream best friend. Yeah. And now I have a friend who's my adventure friend, and I never really talk to her about business, but I love like surfing with her. Yeah, love it.
That's cool.
And then I have my business friends who I know like they actually, for real, only want to talk about business. Like I went on a weekend trip with them and I was like, interesting. They really only want to talk about business. Maybe I won't do this weekend ski trip because they don't actually want to ski. Yeah. So I've just learned, I didn't write them off and go home to my husband and complain that like, oh my God, they literally can only talk about business. I said, they really can only talk about business. So I'm going to mastermind with them. And I'm going to go with these people. Yeah, totally.
Like, well, this, and I love talking about business too. It's like, oh shoot. But
no,
yeah,
it's
that's
perfect.
Really cool.
Like, because then you can be categorized as that with your other friends, but make sure you know what category you're putting someone in before you go and get an expectation hangover. Like, otherwise you're going to leave disappointed.
Yeah. I think I've like literally just been like, okay, if there's certain things they're choosing for their life, I don't want it to rub off on me, because then I'm like, well, I can't get advice from you. I'm only going to be helping you, Yeah. So I think it's a balance, but yeah, I'll find it. And I appreciate you for inviting me to your events.
Come, you're going to love it.
Okay. So to wrap this up, I always do, a manifesting moment. So you can close your eyes and imagine yourself. Where would you be in 3 years from now?
Okay, that one feels easy for me right now just because I just launched a company. Yeah. And I feel like I can see I want to create a really amazing community around it, like an ambassador community, and I can see all of them making the money that they want to make, and we are celebrating it at the gala. And I am like so honored and blown away to be on their journey and in their life and celebrating them. Like I literally cannot wait for that moment. So, that's where I want to be, is celebrating all of their journeys and the money that they've been able to make with my company.
I totally forgot. Can you please go into your company real quick? Glow-C.
Okay, it's called Glow-C, and it is a skin routine that you can drink. So it is a powdered packet that you put in your water every single day. And it's about like it's a skin and gut superfood. So it's like getting all of the nutrients that you need for your skin, because we're always putting topical things on, but we're never actually going to the root of like, hey, if you want good skin, it starts from what you're putting inside of your body.
So true.
And so I'm also huge on habits. Like I know you have that Habits app. I'm huge on daily rituals because I think daily rituals build our confidence. When we keep one promise to ourselves, this feels like one simple promise you can keep to yourself, and that you take that moment during your day to pour into yourself literally and figuratively. Yeah. And I think water it's so vital. It's like so many people don't know that they feel moody, or like, it's like you're not bitchy, you're just thirsty. You're dehydrated. Yeah. You just need to drink water. Yeah. And it's such a foundational thing that is so simple. And it's been the simple, small things done daily that have totally changed my life. So I feel like this can be a vehicle for so many people to get back to themselves, but also show that, we have 54 female investors. It's a fully female funded and founded company.
That's so
and
cool.
I want to have a lot of events around it. Like I want this to be the proof that if I can do it, they can do it too.
I love that. And it's so cool that you work with all females.
Oh my God, it's so
stuff.
fun.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm saying that, actually.
Yeah, it's wild. Okay, so definitely tell people where they can find Glossy, the social media handles and things like that.
It is all, so it's getglossy.com, and then social media is at getglossy.
Okay. And then my last thing is, what do you feel like is your $1 billion quality that got you to where you are today?
My $1 billion quality that got me to where I am today is connecting with people and being able to have a learning how to have a conversation with anyone and be interested. So learning to ask good questions.
I love that. And that kind of goes into your podcast. You have an amazing podcast. She's changed my life through her podcast.
So
If
crazy.
you haven't listened to it, it's called Earn Your Happy. She's so raw and vulnerable. And I feel like you go through things in your life and then you take those moments and then you put it through your podcast. And it's just so powerful. So anyone that hasn't listened to you, go listen to you there. And then your social media handles are...
It's just at Lori Harder everywhere.
Yes. And you wrote a book. You've done so
did
many
write a
things.
book.
I say that on the intro.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. This was so fun. Oh my goodness. Like so fun.
This episode was such a good one for me. I hope you enjoyed it also. Thank you so much for listening. As you know, I go and respond to all your comments. I read through them. So let me know what parts resonated with you the most. Also, let me know if you have any topics or things you want me to touch on in future episodes. As always, I release new episodes every Tuesday. So thank you so much, my $1 billion baby, and I'll see you next week.